Welcome to House of Homes. My name is Victor Corona, aka Vic, the producer, and joining me is Gilbert Manzano, who does it for Sports Illustrated. Gilbert, this game was in hand, it seemed like, and then you get a bunch of turnovers and you allow the Commanders to come back and make it a 28-20 win for the Rams. Do you just take a win is a win and you move on? Or are you more of like, I have some concerns here?
I think you take the win and you move on because the Rams are now in the seventh seed. Everything worked out their way. Like the last time they played in Baltimore, they got the hearts broken, but then the Packers lose two in a row. The Vikings lose the game, and at the end of the day, the Rams handled business. But part of me thinks, okay, they should have done better because you're playing in 4 days against the Saints. By the way, the Saints also 7-7, so you're seeing them behind you in the standings. So you could have easily, won that game in three quarters. Jacoby Brissett came in the fourth quarter. You could have had Stafford and a bunch of your starters out in the fourth quarter to rest for Thursday. That didn't work out, but you got to take the wins, right?
Yeah, you should, and I'm with you. But before I kind of get into it, I just want to tell people I see a lot of people have jumped on. So if you have any questions, if you want to comment anything you saw in this game, get in the comments. Let us know. We'll share your comment on here. But the as you talked about, the Rams are now in the seventh seed, and with everybody else losing around them, you had the Falcons losing, you had the Packers losing, and so now their chances of making the playoffs goes even up more. Now they're at 54%, and that's all you can at this point. Nobody's. I'm telling you, Gilbert. One of the things we continue to talk about is the fact that no one saw the Rams being in this position, especially after Week 15. But here we are.
Yeah, I keep going back to the Packers game where they had Brett Rippin and the sky was falling. They only had 3 points and they lost and they go into the bye week and they just keep winning and winning. That Baltimore game, I know, like I mentioned, it was a heartbreaker, but they showed me a lot in Baltimore to push the Ravens into overtime. Like watch the Ravens go into Jacksonville tonight, or yeah, I think it's a road game, and they just crush the Jaguars. Like that shows you the level that the Rams are at and how quickly they've changed. This offense is really good. They didn't get 30 points today, but Kyrie Williams, 152 rushing yards. He did drop the ball twice, but they're running the football. Cooper Cup, a lengthy touchdown. Stafford playing well again. The offensive line doing a good job. The defense showed out for the first three quarters, and then it kind of got away from. I'm concerned about that part, the secondary. We'll see what they do with Derek Carr and the Saints on Thursday Night Football, but this is an unforeseen midseason turnaround that not a lot of people expected after Green Bay. I'm sure there's a few people like yourself, Victor, that had high hopes for these Rams during training camp, and they've done so well with a young group and a rookie class. But after what happened before the bye week, I'm still surprised. But hey, they're capable of winning a playoff game. I feel like if they get in, and they're in a good spot right now.
Yeah, since the bye week, they're a completely different team, and I talked about it. I think that was before the season. I said, "Hey, this team has a chance to get in the playoffs if they take advantage of that second half schedule." Now, before that bye, we both had our concerns with this team, but getting Kyron Williams back, getting healthy. The thing was too with Matthew Stafford, can he stay healthy the whole season? We saw that he couldn't, and unfortunately, they lost, him for a game against the Packers. And as you talked about, Brett Rippon had to come in. And so, so far so good as we sit here at the end of week 15. But I just want to put an engagement question out there. How concerning are the red zone struggles, Gilbert? Because I know a lot of people have been talking about this online, and even the broadcast brought it up at the beginning of that first drive where the same thing happened again, where they got down inside the goal line, and then next thing you know, they throw the ball, in the end zone, and they come away with 3 points.
Yeah, that's a good point by you. We're gonna focus on a couple negative things here, and I think it's okay to do that because they should have won by more points against the struggling Commanders. And I had the over in this game, and I thought they were gonna drop maybe 35 points, 40 points. They got close to 28, but they had a slow start too offensively. They couldn't really get going. It was like 7-10-0, 13-0, and then eventually they started pulling away. Getting that touchdown with Cooper Cup, but yeah, you got to come through in the red zone, like we saw that Vikings game, yesterday against the Bengals. Like they were in the red zone and they had a turnover, or they had a field goal, and it cost them at the end when the Bengals rallied. So, I use the Vikings as an example because they are fighting with the Rams here for a playoff spot. But maybe it could happen with you against the Saints. It could happen against the Giants who lost to the Saints, by the way, and then they play the 49ers. So you got to put teams away when you have these red zone opportunities. And then in the secondary, I am concerned about these long touchdown plays here. Terry McLaurin, you have McLaurin in fantasy football. It finally paid off because he's been struggling all year with Sam Howell, Ron Rivera, and Eric Bieniemy. But it was one of these games where they did their job. It was a little flat, but after what happened in Baltimore, they played their butts off and they lost. Here, they didn't really play as well, but they still won.
Yeah, and that's all you can hope for this time of season. I mean, you're starting to see teams lose, and the one thing we had a concern as we previewed this matchup was, hey, don't have a letdown game after, especially after how good you played. And I think, yeah, you should be concerned about some of those things, but honestly, the main focus should be just taking the win and moving on and getting ready for Thursday night's game against the Saints. We have a comment on here from Delbert Salgado. He says, we continue our playoff journey that started after the bye, still trying to clean up little things that can turn a game around. Growing up versus where we were a year ago, horns up Ramley. So, I mean, he's right on point there as well. I mean, I don't think not a lot of people expected what we're seeing, and now that you're here, you have to. They're growing up before our eyes.
Yeah, but like you mentioned, Delbert, you gotta clean up the little things like Kyron Williams fumbling twice like that. I'm sure, that probably I don't want to jinx him, I shouldn't say it, but it could happen again. But he rarely does things like that where he fumbles. And when he had a second one, I'm like, okay, what's going on here? But you look at his stat line, he's still contributing. Like that guy's a monster. And I kept saying I feel like the one thing I've gotten right all year, they're a different team when Kyron Williams was on the field and they lost him for a few weeks. And then when he came back, they started rolling again. They're winning these games. And maybe that's why maybe I shouldn't be too surprised when they got Kyron Williams back on the field. But to now having Puka and Cooper Cup, playing in sync together, that was going to take a while to get those two wide receivers going. Stafford has just been dealing, playing so well. He got the hip injury, in Indy. He got the finger injury, I think, in Dallas. And now he's starting to look, obviously, he's not going to be 100% healthy, but he looks great out there making it work. But yeah, you can't have the turnovers. You can't have the red zone miscues. You can't have, plays coming in slowly like in Baltimore. You can't get burned constantly, downfield in the secondary. You want to see more game-changing plays from this defense. I know Cody Durant on special teams got the block extra point there to make it a 28-20 game. But you need game-changing momentum plays. But this team is just like cruising on offense, man. Like another 400 yards of offense. Like I'm still amazed how well they are, and I keep like I really is going to focus this show like okay they're going to be a dangerous team, and then they had that sour ending there but what did they play the Lions and who played great against the Broncos, by the way? What did they play the Lions in the 3-6 matchup? 2-7 could be difficult. They play the Eagles or the 49ers. But the way they're rolling offensively, they have a chance, but you better make sure you score in the red zone. Don't fumble the ball and don't allow these deep touchdowns in the secondary.
Yeah, and to your point about Matthew Stafford and how good he's been playing, he had a chance, Gilbert, to tie Kurt Warner for most games with 3 touchdowns, and that he could have had 4 today. He just missed a chance there in the end zone, so that just tells you how well he's been playing. And then going back to Kyron Williams, and you talked about he's fumbled twice in the first half, and this could have been a much lopsided win for the Rams. And I think that was a big thing for us. Was hey maybe if you get up on this Commanders team, you can rest some guys, and then you kept them around long enough to where they brought in Jacoby Brissett, and because this defense was doing this job against Howe, and then Jacoby Brissett comes in and he's like, you know what, I'm gonna get the guy that should be our feature here in McLaurin, and he scores 2 touchdowns, and next thing you know, you're having to sweat out this win. But I just want to go back to Kyron Williams, and how good McVay has been, you know, scheming things up. Williams has faced a light box now, Gilbert. Or in this game, he faced a light box 21 of his 27 carries and gained 121 yards on those attempts. He has gained a league high 660 rushing yards against light boxes this season, 79 more than the next guy. And remember, Gilbert, he missed 3 or 4 games there in the middle of the season. So that just tells you the how good McVay has been scheming things up, because you're gonna if you're trying to take away something, you're gonna allow Williams to have light boxes, and that's to the benefit of the Rams. And just let me just give you some stats here, just for everybody who's tuning in. Matthew Stafford, 25 of 33, 258 yards, 2 touchdowns that we talked about. Kyron Williams, 27 carries, 152 yards. Puka Nakua, another 5 receptions for 50 yards, 1 carry for 6 yards. Cooper Cup, second straight 100-yard game, Gilbert. He goes for 8 catches, and then that 62-yard catch where he was just left alone. Everybody was like, how did he get
Yeah.
that wide open? And I think a big key too, Gilbert, that we haven't talked about is Demarcus Robinson. This is now the second straight game he scores a touchdown. He goes 2 for 44, and he had 1 carry for 23 yards.
Yeah, he's been big. Demarcus Robinson, they needed it with Tutu Atwell, out. A player with plenty of experience. I think he played with the Chiefs, might have played with the Ravens, I forget, but plenty of
Chief,
experience and stepping up there. And I'm actually surprised how many light boxes Kyron Williams is getting, because I guess people are not taking notice that this team feeds off of Kyron Williams, and obviously you got to respect Stafford and Cooper and Puka, but eventually they're gonna catch on. Like, you gotta flip it. Like, this team like just does well when they're running the football pretty heavy, or maybe the Rams are just doing a good job of not being predictable, because when you're running this new gap scheme uphill of vertical attack, like, that's kind of obvious, right? It's like smash mouth football, but teams aren't picking up on it, and it could be all the motions and things you're doing with Puka and Cooper Cup, and that's a credit to the coaching staff with Sean McVay. And I know McVay has taken some heat for his game management or lack of running attack in the first half, and also he didn't have Kyron Williams for 5 games, 6 weeks, whatever it was. So everything was an adjustment, and right now it's clicking. And again, so I'm surprised about those stats there. Eventually, maybe the teams will pick it up. By the way, I think the Saints are pretty, so-so when it comes to the run defense. Looking ahead for the preview there, but you better have a game where you just finish and close quickly, and those are the signs of the growing pains. When you have a veteran core, and Aaron Donald played today for the defense, but Cooper Cup, Aaron Donald, and Stafford and Sean McVay, they just won a Super Bowl 2 years ago. So that it tells you that they're doing their job with this new cast of characters and young players and rookies, but these kind of mistakes are still kind of lingering, and we'll see how they do, because I really don't think you could afford to lose to the Saints or the
Giants.
Giants, knowing in the back of your mind you have to finish against the 49ers who are still competing for the number one seed.
Yeah, and talking about that, the Saints are coming off a big win, as you talked about, against the Giants, 24-6. They're also 7-7. They're also in the playoff picture. It's them and the Buccaneers right now trying to fight for that NFC South, and so that's going to be a huge game. The just FYI, the Rams, the lines are out. The Rams are 3.5 point favorites versus the Saints on Thursday night football. We'll see
Mm.
how those lines change as we get closer to Thursday night. And so on a short week, we'll have a lot to get into as the Monday and Tuesday come around. I'm guessing we haven't discussed this yet, but I'm sure we'll have a early preview this week because of the Thursday night game.
Yeah, let's probably do it on Tuesday. We'll talk, but just a kind of a promo. Probably Tuesday. You want to check out the live show of the Tuesday preview, Saints against the Rams. But if you have any thoughts about that game, make sure to comment. And we have some people watching. Don't be shy. Delbert Salgado got it going there with his comment. But whatever you want to talk about the Rams, something you notice in here that we're not talking about, or something you agree or disagree with from our comments, that's fine too. But yeah, it's one of those games where kind of like, what else can you really impact? As the Commanders, they're not a good team. They're ready for the off season. Ron Rivera might get fired tomorrow. Who knows? Maybe, just rides out the rest of the season. So they're not really a team that's trying to win. They did compete hard at the end with Jacoby Brissett. They pulled Sam Howell. I saw Rivero said that Sam Howell is still the starting quarterback. I don't know why, but Brissett kind of gave him a little more life there. But yeah, I think it's got to clean it up here. And this game, it doesn't seem too exciting, but to win and then also have, in a way, have the Saints win because it doesn't really hurt you too much. It does, make for a good Thursday night football game. After we saw the Chargers and the Raiders in that blowout, and it was over in the first 2 minutes, this one should be a little more competitive. But it's just funny how things worked out for the Rams because it was a tough L in Baltimore, but then we kept telling people, "Hey, this is frustrating. Maybe complaining about the calls, the punt return and the block in the back, things like that. But it's gonna even out with these schedules here."
Yeah,
And at that point, when the Rams lost, the Packers played two more times and they lost. Now they kind of become afterthoughts because they lost 2 games in a row. They're 6-8, and I'm like, okay, cool, they're done. They have the tiebreakers over the Seahawks, who still has to play the Eagles on Monday night, and then here the Saints are out of nowhere 7-7. Like, oh crap, they're there. But the Rams, luckily for them, have a better conference record. But now when they play the Saints head to head, tiebreakers mean they're more important. So you definitely got to win that game,
yeah.
just to kind of have as insurance too.
Yeah, and now we sit here with 3 games to go, and you're starting to see like, okay, they need to win the next two because, this is your last home game against the Saints. Then you're having to go on the road. You're going to the East Coast against the Giants, and as I've said, that's the one game I was concerned about because you you know we know what to expect against the 49ers. This is a divisional game. We know what's going to happen there, but the Giants, you never know what you're going to get with them, especially having to travel to the East Coast and all that. So you got to take care of business, as we talked about. Take it one game at a time. And now you can, start to look at that against the Saints on Thursday night. It's a quick turnaround, but as we've seen with the Rams, they'll be ready to go. Last season when they played on Thursday night, they had a quarterback come in on 2 days rest and they beat the Raiders. So you know they'll be well coached and they'll be ready to go against the Saints for sure on Thursday. One more other thing that I wanted to mention, Gilbert, just to give some love to the defense because before Brissett came in, they were shutting out the Commanders and I mean pretty much shutting them down. Ernest Jones with another big game, 7 tackles, 1 sack, and then John Johnson now with his second interception in the last 3 games. This team is not going to turn you over. They're not going to put a lot of pressure on you defensively. But when they do, they get to the quarterback, like we saw with Ernest Jones, and they're going to be opportunistic and get 1 or 2 turnovers a game. And that's what they pretty much did. They didn't lose the game. And I know I'm going to talk about, well, I did want to ask you, and we talked about, you brought it up, and you asked, how big are special teams? How concerned are you about special teams? And I know a lot of people are gonna blame Lucas Haversick for that missed field goal, and they brought it up in the broadcast, and we saw the long snapper, the what's his name, Jay Feely was saying that he was missing left and right before the game because of the new long snapper, and that kind of stuff is gonna matter,
Yeah.
Gilbert, and that's why we talked about it.
Yeah, it definitely does matter. It could bite you at the worst time. We saw it last week in Baltimore, the punt return, touchdown in overtime. So yeah, like when they released the news about the new long snapper, it's kind of like, well, who cares? But it's kind of at the same time, better make sure this long snapper is on point. But yeah, but make sure they got that figured out. But I really think, Victor, they got to win out and beat 3-0 because you don't want to face the 49ers or the Eagles in the 2-7 matchup. But that's the preview for another day. That's pretty much my thoughts there for the final thoughts here, Victor. I got to get going to cover this
Yeah,
Sunday night football game, but it was a kind of so-so game, but they got the job done. They beat the
yeah,
Commanders, a little scared at the end, and they handled business. So that should be the theme. Handle business, against the Saints and the Giants. Maybe it's a little more than business because the Saints are right there in the playoff race. Could be a good indicator like where you really are. Are you like with these big boys, or are you kind of more the lower pack of the average, or are you somewhere in the middle there? So I do want to see that game in terms of where they land. But yeah, it would be nice if they win out, but it'll be tough with the 49ers in the final week, and then maybe they get to play them again, but who knows?
yeah. We'll see. I mean, I'm just happy that we're here talking about meaningful games at the end of the season. We're in week 15, the case, but not a lot of people did. But just for the channel, for what we're doing here, I'm just excited to be able to talk about meaningful football, as we get close to Christmas time. So that's my final thoughts. Gilbert, who gets your 12 pack of beer uh, for this game? Who did the most to get your 12 pack of beer this game?
Yeah, I don't think I've gotten into Stafford in a minute. I think I gave it to Cooper Cup last week. So this I'll change it up. I'll go with Stafford, man. He's playing great. Nobody's talking about it, but he's playing like a Pro Bowler. You know, these achievements are kind of forgotten sometimes, but like because he does so much, consistently, and it's kind of routine. But he's playing so well, and like definitely a case for the Pro Bowl. But obviously, he wants a bigger goal and make it to Las Vegas and get to the Super Bowl. And a couple weeks ago, people would have laughed at that idea of getting to the Super Bowl. It's still kind of a wild scenario, but if they get in the postseason, you have as good a chance as anybody else. So that is because of Stafford's playing so well, and he had another great game today.
Yeah, and I like that one. I mean, I could go with Kyron Williams and make it easy, but I'm gonna give it to Ernest Jones, man. That guy's been playing with a knee injury, and he continues to lead that defense. Everybody was saying it's just Aaron Donald and a bunch of guys, and I think now it's becoming Aaron Donald and Ernest Jones and a bunch of guys, just because he's been able to lead that team, and him playing hurt is also pretty big. And I know a lot of people. I saw that they want to get rid of Darion Kendrick, and I think part of it too
Yeah.
has to do with the fact that Ernest Jones is playing really good ball right now, and they're keeping the Rams in the game, and so I think for me that's who gets it. So hope he enjoys that. That'll be it, Gilbert. That's all I have for you on this Rams post game show. The Rams beat the Commanders 28-20. They hold on, but as you said, a win is a win. And now we get ready to preview the Saints and Rams on Thursday Night Football. As I said, the Rams are 3.5 point favorites as of right now. But yeah, let's get ready for Thursday night, Gilbert.
Cool. Let's get on and move on to week 16. Short week. Rams Saints Thursday Night Football. They just beat the Commanders 28-20. Handling business. Now moving on to the short week. But on that note, ya nos vamos. Pues vámonos.